Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. You know, I mean, he's.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
Sean Diddy Combs, the legendary music mogul, is now facing the fight of his life and losing. A federal judge has once again denied him bail, marking the 5th time Diddy has been deemed too dangerous for release. And this time the ruling has slammed the door shut on any hope of freedom before his sentencing. The courtroom isn't bending to his billion-dollar empire, not anymore. Not when Judge Arun Subramanian writes with chilling clarity that Diddy poses a serious risk of flight or danger. It's the kind of language usually reserved for mobsters and war criminals, not a man who once graced the cover of Forbes.
He is a serial woman abuser, the likes of which we haven't seen in modern America, at least not on the public stage in this way. He is a repeated serial abuser. He beat those women to a pulp and didn't even deny it. He didn't deny it. They admitted expressly domestic abuse over and over and over again, something the judge used against them when they pled for bail.
And yet, here we are. Diddy, 55, is being held without bail at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, awaiting sentencing on October 3rd for 2 federal convictions: transportation to engage in prostitution. But that's only the part they could prove. The judge's ruling doesn't pull punches. Subramanian refused to entertain the argument that Combs deserved special treatment, not for his age, not for his fame, and certainly not for the so-called swingers lifestyle his defense attorneys clung to like a broken raft in a legal storm. The judge even dismissed Diddy's claims that jail conditions were inhumane, pointing out that despite the federal budget cuts, staff at MDC have been able to keep him safe, even during a recent inmate threat. Translation, he's not getting out, no matter how much money or sympathy he throws at the system.
How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it for so long?
The reason why? Just look at the evidence. Surveillance footage, hard, grainy, irrefutable, showing Diddy violently assaulting Cassie Ventura in a hotel hallway in 2016. He's seen kicking her, dragging her, a scene prosecutors say reflects a decade of abuse behind closed doors. Cassie testified that those brutal acts were only the surface-level nightmares. Behind the velvet ropes of Diddy's private life were the infamous freak-off parties. Not some consensual playdate, but as prosecutors described, orchestrated displays of control. These weren't random hookups. They were elaborate and produced performances where women under pressure or under influence were expected to perform for Diddy and his selected audience of inner circle elite. According to court documents, over 1,000 bottles of lubricant and mysterious powders were found during the LA and Miami raids. The supplies weren't for spa nights. They were tools, prosecutors argue. In a twisted power game, Diddy allegedly ran like a general in his own private army of indulgence. This wasn't just about pleasure, it was about control. Cassie told the court that Diddy filmed their encounters, allegedly weaponizing the footage as leverage to keep her silent. At one point, she said, "The freak-offs became a full-time job, no escape." And as if that wasn't enough, another ex, referred to as Jane, testified that she thought she was attending a one-time event, only to find herself trapped in a recurring nightmare, one that included being kicked, threatened, and manipulated. Diddy's attorneys tried to cast all of this as some grand misunderstanding, that what happened was between consenting adults. But the judge wasn't buying it. Subramanian pointed to a clear pattern: violence, coercion, and calculated subjugation.
I don't buy for a minute that he's going to prison without getting out of here somewhere and stashing $2 billion or whatever. I think he has that kind of power, meaning Sean himself. But remember, it goes a lot deeper than that.
But behind bars, Diddy isn't just biding time, and this is where things start to get even more twisted. Whispers are emerging from inside the Brooklyn MDC, hush rumors among guards, off-the-record murmurs from federal sources, and one particularly juicy leak from a former employee who claimed Diddy had been feeling out the logistics of a prison escape. That's right, a prison escape. Allegedly, Diddy was overheard talking about disappearing for good, vanishing into one of his private island properties, slipping out via airstrip or boat, using the very global network he once used to launch fashion lines and fragrance empires. Think about it. This man has shell companies buried deeper than a Russian oligarch, contacts in every time zone, and enough offshore properties to make extradition a bureaucratic nightmare. If even half of these allegations are true, we're looking at someone who may have seriously considered pulling off a Bond villain-level getaway. One former road manager claims that talks of a bolt plan had been circulating for months, allegedly involving falsified passports, encrypted calls through non-traceable apps, and even discussions of bribing private security to look the other way. It wasn't just a fantasy, he told a reporter. He was working angles. The FBI has neither confirmed nor denied these whispers, but it certainly adds weight to Judge Subramanian's refusal to grant bail. If he really was plotting to flee the country, no amount of ankle bracelets or court supervision would stop him. And the sad irony? The same celebrity empire that made him untouchable for decades may now be the very reason he's locked down so tightly. The power he once wielded is now Exhibit A, and why he can't be trusted with even one breath of freedom.
Look at Diddy, for instance. Let's take a look at him. Let's take a look at, he has videos. He has videos of the parties. Now, what I've heard, which I don't know how much of it is in mainstream media, I don't really follow the story that much, but what I've heard from friends that are attorneys, friends of mine that have represented me before, agents and so on, is there's a bidding war going on right now.
And yet, the darkest shadows in this case may not be in court transcripts or surveillance footage. They may be inside Diddy's vault. Because as investigators dig deeper into his empire, insiders are whispering about something far more dangerous than freak-off supplies or old security tapes. We're talking about files, allegedly hidden digital archives, the so-called Blackmail Stash. For years, Diddy has floated through scandals with uncanny ease. Civil suits vanish overnight. Witnesses go silent. Celebrities who once partied with him now say nothing. Why the hush? According to at least 2 industry veterans, both of whom worked with Combs at Bad Boy Records in the early 2000s, Diddy kept not financial ones, the personal kind.
He had cameras all over the place, unbeknownst to them. And now he has all that footage, supposedly. This is what I'm told. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens if, you're a huge, iconic, TV star or movie star, and you're in some very, very...
Who's getting...
There are rumors, still unproven but gaining traction, that Combs stored footage, audio recordings, and possibly even signed ND ads from stars who were guests at his infamous mansion parties. We're talking A-listers, the kind of names that fill red carpets and billion-dollar franchises. He kept insurance on everyone, one former assistant allegedly told investigators. He had footage of stuff that could end careers overnight. Suddenly, the eerie silence from some of Hollywood's biggest names starts to make a little more sense. Those who were once loud supporters have gone suspiciously quiet. No public statements, no tweets, not even a thoughts and prayers. Just ghosting.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. People who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have.
Could these blackmail files explain the web of protection that seemed to shield Diddy for so long? Was that how he maintained the loyalty of assistants, security teams, even other artists? One legal analyst said bluntly, he knew where all the bodies were, metaphorically buried. And if this vault of secrets actually exists, it could make the Freakoff allegations look like a prelude. We're talking about potential leverage over CEOs, producers, actors, musicians. This isn't just a court case anymore, it's a power reckoning. And the walls aren't just closing in on Diddy. They may be closing in on an entire era of celebrity culture. As federal prosecutors tighten their grip, another thread is beginning to fray. Diddy's once untouchable inner circle, the managers, security detail, chauffeurs, assistants, and artists who stood close enough to feel the heat of his spotlight, are now standing a little too close to his downfall. The people who booked the hotel rooms, signed off on the logistics, managed the guest list for those freak-off parties, the ones who handled the money and the silence, are suddenly being looked at through a very different lens. Were they just cogs in the machine, or did they knowingly enable the chaos? At what point does loyalty become complicity?
Of coming forward, they've been afraid of what he could potentially do to them within the industry, what he could do to them professionally, maybe even personally. And so yes, it's been a dark secret they've held on to for a very, very long time.
Federal investigators have reportedly reached out to several former staffers. A former assistant, who allegedly walked away after one particularly disturbing night in LA, is now said to be cooperating. A longtime bodyguard, once seen as Diddy's shadow, is rumored to have met with prosecutors behind closed doors. What we're watching unfold could easily become a domino effect. One flips and the rest crumble. These aren't just rumors swirling in tabloids anymore, they're patterns forming in a widening investigation. With subpoenas stacking and more devices being seized for digital forensics, it's no longer a question of if someone else will fall, it's who and when.
I seen him do it before. I seen him even tell people on the phone before, like he did Wendy Williams.
There's also the creeping question of how much these people truly knew. One industry insider who worked with Bad Boy Records in the late 2000s said, bluntly, You didn't work for Puff without seeing too much. Some kept their mouths shut because the paychecks were good. Others, insiders claim, stayed quiet out of fear, not of losing a job, but of retaliation. We've already heard murmurs of intimidation tactics, gag orders, and mysterious NDA clauses that tied up employees tighter than a PR crisis plan. And now that the empire is bleeding, those same insiders are being asked to tell everything they saw, everything they heard, and everything they were told to forget. All of this might explain the strange letter that arrived on the judge's desk just days before the most recent bail hearing. A heartfelt plea for mercy, handwritten by none other than Virginia Huynh, the same woman identified as Victim 3 in the original indictment. Her letter to Judge Subramanian begged the court to allow Diddy to return home to his family. She called him patient, loving, changed. She said the man she knew in recent years was markedly different from his past behavior. And just like that, the internet split in two. Some saw a redemption arc, others saw a trap.
Trump pardoning Diddy will create another Epstein for him. It would be a nightmare. And last and certainly not least, the GOP is already struggling with female voters. And they're not all lefties. There are young conservative women who aren't in love with Trump or MAGA. There are. And this will not help. It's very clear. We all saw the videotape of him beating the hell out of Cassandra Ventura.
Let's be real, the timing is suspicious. This is a woman who was set to testify against Diddy in the federal trial, but backed out just before it began. Now she's publicly advocating for his release, describing him as a father first and denying he posed any threat to her or the community. Some say it's genuine, a personal decision to move on, to heal. Others aren't so sure. Former prosecutors are already raising eyebrows. Could this be coercion behind the curtain? A whispered call from a mutual contact? A quiet threat cloaked in emotional manipulation? In a world where loyalty is currency and secrets are leverage, Huynn's letter might not be about forgiveness at all. It might be about self-preservation. Let's not forget what Cassie Ventura claimed under oath, that Diddy recorded intimate acts and used those recordings as blackmail. If Huynh was also caught in that web, her letter could be read as a white flag, written under duress. Another possibility? That she was promised something in return. Not money, but silence. A kind of safety net in case things turned darker. These are the questions that now hang over her letter like a shadow. No matter how well-meaning the words, the context twists everything into knots.
So, Terrence Howard appeared on the PBD podcast with Patrick Bet-David, and the episode, this premiered on April 4th. Definitely making the rounds because in this episode, Terrence Howard describes an interaction with Diddy where he says that he believes that Diddy was trying to have sex with him. Let's take a listen.
As the trial's ripple effects deepen, people are starting to look back at Diddy's career with fresh eyes, not through the lens of music videos and award shows, but with a sharper focus on what was happening behind the scenes. The lavish parties, the blurred boundaries, the constant rotation of assistants and consultants, even celebrities once seen partying at his events are now pulling back, scrubbing photos, distancing their brands. The names being whispered in industry circles are ones we all recognize: actors, producers, athletes. The same people who danced beside him in yachts and posed for photos in LA penthouses are now fielding quiet calls from attorneys asking, "Did you ever see anything?" Or worse, "Were you ever involved?"
I don't know this, but it just seems very suspicious when you go through and you look at in the history of different people that can make you go away if you listen. I've worried about some of the things that I talk about on my show.
It's not just Diddy on the hook anymore. This could turn into a systemic reckoning, because if these parties were as calculated as prosecutors say, and if the guest lists included the Hollywood elite, then what happens when more names start surfacing? We've already seen cracks. People once proudly linked to Combs, now issuing generic statements or going completely silent. When silence this loud echoes across social media, it usually means panic has replaced public relations. One veteran entertainment lawyer described it as a chilling game of musical chairs, and no one wants to be left standing, and time is running out. With sentencing scheduled for October 3rd, every move Diddy's team makes is being watched. Every appeal, every interview, every carefully crafted legal argument is being dissected by the media, prosecutors, and the public alike. His lawyers have tried framing him as a misunderstood eccentric, a man with peculiar preferences, yes, but not a predator. Judge Subramanian wasn't swayed, and neither were the jurors who saw the evidence and heard the testimonies. They didn't need the human trafficking conviction to see enough.
I thought he was this clean businessman who rise to the top because he was such a powerful and smart, educated man. I had no idea that he had this other side to him. And when I started to get exposed to his lifestyle, I started to really realize, like, this guy has an addiction. It's not just, once every few weeks, it's every day, every hour.
The raids on Diddy's properties in LA and Miami in early 2025 turned up more than just headlines. They uncovered what federal agents now refer to as the physical remnants of a secret world. Inside hidden closets, under false floors, and behind mirrored walls, investigators reportedly found the so-called Freakoff supplies, an inventory that read more like a prop list for a dystopian stage play than anything remotely typical. Over 1,000 bottles of baby oil, a stockpile of powders and capsules, some labeled, others not. High-end lighting rigs, multiple cameras wired to private servers, and boxes of masks, restraints, and costumes, some of which allegedly match those seen in earlier leaked footage. What prosecutors now hold isn't just circumstantial noise, it's the visual and material spine of the allegations. This evidence is more than spectacle, it's potential corroboration. Prosecutors believe the scale and organization of these items suggest long-term planning, not casual experimentation. The sheer volume, cases of unopened product, entire drawers of burner phones, points to an operation that was recurring, structured, and very much under Diddy's control. These weren't party favors, they were tools. Tools used, prosecutors argue, to manipulate, isolate, and record vulnerable individuals in high-pressure situations. And if even a portion of the footage tied to those camera systems is recovered, it could open the floodgates on a new phase of the investigation, one that implicates not just Diddy, but potentially his guests, his partners, and anyone else who looked into those cameras and smiled.
Are you surprised by the evidence that's already coming out in the criminal trial?
No, I'm not surprised. I experienced some of those things. Witnessed violence.
Forensic analysts are now combing through terabytes of encrypted storage seized from both properties, with one insider claiming the files go back more than a decade. The question isn't just who appears in the footage, but who had access to it. If Diddy used these recordings as leverage, as several accusers have claimed, then the contents of these drives could confirm a long-suspected strategy: power through documentation. Some defense sources have tried to dismiss the footage as consensual or artistic, but prosecutors clearly aren't buying it. The digital evidence, once decrypted, may very well carry more weight than any testimony. It can't forget, it doesn't hesitate. And it could be the evidence that leads to a fresh wave of subpoenas, because with that kind of material, it's not just about what Diddy did, it's about who else was there, who watched, who participated, who stood by and said nothing. One former security contractor told investigators that guest lists were tightly controlled, but recordings were common, and few attendees asked questions. If those claims pan out, we could be looking at a map of enablers, collaborators, or at the very least, silent witnesses. The Freakoff Files could be the case within the case, not just proving the scale of Diddy's alleged crimes, but showing how deeply others may be entangled.
Well, the things that I experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
The most haunting part, we may still be scratching the surface. With sentencing looming, prosecutors have a tight window to decide how much of this material to introduce and how much to hold for potential future charges. But what's already been described in sealed filings has left seasoned legal analysts shaken. This wasn't just a series of wild nights. It appears to be a pattern of engineered chaos, meticulously built to exploit and contain. And if that's true, the freak-off evidence may do more than seal Diddy's fate. It may expose an entire ecosystem that thrived in his shadow. The freak-off parties, the Blackmail Files, the whispers of an escape plot, the silence from stars who once called him family, all of it now paints a very different picture than the polished image we saw on red carpets. This is the unraveling of a brand built on bravado and mystique. And if even a fraction of the rumors prove true, it could mark one of the most devastating falls from grace in entertainment history. As Diddy's October sentencing looms, the pieces of this twisted puzzle are falling into place. But the bigger picture is even harder to face. If a man with this much power could allegedly commit such atrocities for so long, what does that say about the world that enabled him? And as his secrets continue to unravel, one question remains. Will his empire collapse completely, or are we only scratching the surface of something far darker? So what do you think? Is this the final chapter in Diddy's saga, or are there even more skeletons waiting to be dragged into the spotlight? Drop your theories in the comments below. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and trust no velvet rope.